son while driving in the car. I was startled by their separate answers. They said, "Who cares what they think, Mommy?" Something happened in Saigon. For most of my years, I knew only that I was born there. Later, I learned that the English author Graham Greene was there many times when my parents were living there, gathering material for his classic novel, The Quiet American, which became 2 movies. The second one, released in 2002, starred Michael Caine. It's about a love triangle in Saigon between an older British man, his young Vietnamese mistress, and a young American Foreign Service officer who falls in love with her and asks her to marry him. I came from a love triangle much like the one Greene describes in this novel. I am a sequel he never wrote. From what his authorized biographer says, Greene knew much more about my beginning than I did. He knew about my 3 parents. Greene first arrived in Saigon in January 1951, during the war between the French and the Vietnamese communist revolutionists, the Viet Minh. Since long before the American war there, what we now know to be Vietnam had been part of French Indochina, which was part of the French Empire, later called the French Union. Since the late 1800s, for the most part, France had ruled Indochine and infused it with its culture, so much so that French was not only the spoken language, it was taught as the primary language in the schools. It's a war story. Vietnamese communist-instigated bicycle bombings, grenades exploding in restaurants and sidewalk cafes, and assassinations were common in Saigon at the time. When I was almost 3 months old, the 100th U.S. shipload of military aid to France arrived at the downtown dock there. When I was in utero, there was a spectacular suicide bomber double assassination outside Saigon. Greene wasn't there for that. The bomber mortally wounded, amongst others, a French brigadier general and a South Vietnamese governor, which at the time was more significant to some than murdering a French editor or publisher, which was also not unusual in those days. Greene left, then came back to Saigon just before I was born, and then, again and again. He was very interested in my parents. This is evident because his authorized biographer says Greene heard about them when he first arrived, but also Greene knew details about them that only someone who had followed their story for the better part of 2 years could know. Because there are so many similarities between what happens in the novel and what happened in their lives, I have long engaged in the unique pastime of comparing my parents to characters in The Quiet American, characters who Greene insisted came from his unconscious. The first comparison I made is, Dad was too smart to get murdered. So were his friends at work, some there undercover for the Central Intelligence Agency. Chapter 1. In the beginning of what I remember, we seemed to be a typical American family. Mom and Dad, Evelyn, Patricia, and me, as much as any family can be typical. I mean, we had a lot in common with other American families, but even during the most normal part of our years together, I knew something was different. It is 1957, and we live in Silver Spring, Maryland, in a red brick house with yellow and white trim, and a front lawn like a green apron. Jell-O glistens as it is shaken out of copper molds. The stink of canned spinach is proof that Popeye the Sailor Man is a traitor to us all. The sounds are of Wonder Bread popping out of the toaster, mixed with me, age 6, and Evelyn, age 5, and Patricia, age 3, shouting, "Me first," or crying in harmony, "Oh no, oh no," as we stand 3 abreast waiting for our spankings in the laundry room. Serious business is how high we can swing in the backyard, getting a nickel from Mom for a popsicle before the jingling ice cream man's truck leaves the block, getting to watch The Wizard of Oz on TV with a piece of red licorice, making the biggest snowman, and fighting sleep on Christmas Eve, for we believe with all our might that before long reindeer will be clumping on the roof. We are bored when Dad gives his slideshow of Hong Kong Harbor at night, with its colored